What's up everybody? I am really excited about today's video because I am welcoming a new project to the channel. It is a 1976 CJ5, at least that's how it started life. Now it's a Frankenstein build for sure. It's been motor swapped, it's got different axles, different transmission. So I've actually had it for about 2 weeks now. I spent last weekend finding part numbers on stuff, the BOM numbers on the axles, trying to figure out everything about it, making a list, figuring out exactly what it needs so I can get this thing ready to go on the trail. So I guess I should start by telling you what I do know about this Jeep. The first time I saw it was 3 or 4 years ago over in Alabama on a ride. Josh had just picked it up. It was still stock, factory axles. I think he had just finished putting the cage in, but other than that, it was pretty much bone stock. Actually, the night before the ride, they stayed up and built the winch plate for it and did all that so he could get it on the trail the next day. I was on Facebook a few weeks ago and saw somebody commented on one of Josh's posts saying that they wanted the rear end from under this thing, and he had talked about how he was considering parting it out. So as soon as I saw that, I messaged him. I said, you can't part that thing out. How much do you want for the whole Jeep? Let me come get it. So he gave me a price and I went to Benton and picked it up. I was worried that it wasn't gonna fit on my trailer since my trailer is between the fenders and not a deck over. So I had gone and picked up some railroad ties and I was gonna build kind of ramps over the fenders like people do so I could drive over them. But I got there and luckily it was just narrow enough that it fit between the trailers. I mean, it pushes on the fenders, but it does fit. So that means I do not have to modify my trailer, which I'm pretty excited about. Now let's get into the good stuff. We're gonna talk about the parts that are on this thing, which made the whole deal worthwhile. As you can see, it needs a lot of work. I mean, it just needs love. The parts are there. It was built well. Like I said, my buddy built it, and ultimately it was built by somebody that knew what they were doing, but now I just have to clean it up and give it some love. The frame has been stretched 11 inches in the front and 6 inches in the rear, which give it a 99-inch wheelbase. It's running a Dana 60 in the front and a Dana 70 in the rear. It's got YJ springs with some of the leaves taken out, and it's a spring over axle setup. So plenty of clearance underneath the axles. It's running 39.5 IROCs on it, and with the Hummer H1 double beadlock wheels. Josh and Will built the cage that's in it. I think they said they used Bentec to build and get the design for that, so it is super solid. The only plan with that is to try to tie it into the cage whenever I swap the body and do all that. The Jeep came with a Badlands 12,000 pound winch, but I don't think it works. I plugged the controller into it the other day and couldn't get anything to happen. I jiggled some of the wires, nothing was happening, so that's gonna be something that I have to look into for sure because I do not want to be without that on the trail. I'm not exactly sure what the seats are, but they do have 5-point harnesses, and I wouldn't say that they're racing seats, but they are pretty comfortable for a trail Jeep, probably even more so than the seats in my TJ, so that'll be nice. The Jeep is powered by a Ford 5.0 out of a 99 Mercury Mountaineer. It's mated to an NP 435 4-speed, and it's still using the Dana 20 transfer case. The plan for this Jeep is to make it back to a nice classic crawler. I want to put a new body on it, get it painted. I already have a hood, fenders, and grill from the other CJ5 project, and George has a tub at his shop. So I'm gonna swap that out, paint it, paint the frame and do all that, go through the axles, everything, while I've got the tub and everything off. So, but for now, I'm not getting to all that quite yet. We're planning a trip to Moab in June with a bunch of our friends here in the Pine Belt Jeep Club. So we're gonna be heading out west, and I do not want to tear it apart and get it to a spot that I can't get it back together before the trip. So for now, I'm just gonna be changing the things that just absolutely need it. It needs an alternator, it needs a new steering gearbox because it's leaking. This one actually is from a Durango that was part of the parts looking that I did this weekend. I was able to find a cast number on the steering box housing, which luckily helped me track down what gearbox it was. So I'm gonna add Hydro Assist to it. I'm gonna do probably a DIY setup, just buying a Ram from Tractor Supply, tapping the box myself, and giving that my best shot because you can do it pretty affordably that way. I'm also gonna build a new tie rod for it. This tie rod is bent, and so whenever you turn all the way to the right, the tie rod is hitting the diff cover, which greatly limits the steering to the right. A couple things I need to add about the Dana 60 in the front. It has 35 spline outers and it has a Spartan locker in the front. The Dana 70 is just welded. This Jeep also doesn't have any gauges at the moment, so I'm gonna add a temp gauge and an oil pressure gauge to get started. Eventually down the road, whenever we swap the tub, I'll do like a whole new dash. I'll probably add a speedo and tachometer at that time. But just for now, to get it trail reliable and to get it ready for Moab, I'm just gonna get the temp and the oil pressure gauges added. The Jeep also came with the hard top. The back glass is busted out, but the top overall is in pretty good shape. Probably needs a tiny bit of fiberglass work and a new back glass, and that'll be a really nice addition for the winter. Also for the winter, he has a Mojave heater in this, which I have never had before, but I have always heard really great things about the Mojave, and he said that it will burn you out. So I'm looking forward to that because my TJ does not have heat at the moment. So you have to bundle up whenever it's cold and you're riding in the TJ. Before I pulled it onto the trailer to bring it home, he told me to drive it around the yard. I hopped in, put it in first and tried to take off, and I could not turn the wheel. It was super hard to turn. So I knew it didn't have Hydro Assist. I was like, man, is the steering always this hard? And he said, no, definitely not. So we popped the hood and looked at the reservoir, and it was bone dry. So we added power steering fluid, and pretty much as soon as we were adding it, it started leaking out of the pitman arm shaft, just out of the bottom of the steering box. So I was able to get enough fluid in it that I could kind of drive it a little bit around his yard, but not really. I mean, it took a ton of muscle on the steering wheel to even get a little bit of turn. Also, the thing that didn't help was that the lever for the Dana 20 was broken off under the floor, and it was stuck in 4-low. So whenever I got it home, one thing I worked on this weekend just to make it easier to move, I had another Dana 20 here at the house, so I robbed the shifter lever off of it and put it on the Jeep. So now I'm able to get it into 2-wheel drive, which also helped to turn here like in the shop on the pavement. I am super pumped to get to work on this and get it on the channel. Subscribe to the YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. Follow on Instagram. Also, I have a Facebook page. So if you're a fan and you like watching the videos, go join all those outlets. It helps me out, and leave some comments, get me motivated. I've got the other CJ5 that I've got to get finished up. I know people are always asking me when's the next video coming out, and I have been super busy, but after the holidays, the other CJ project is gonna get wrapped up. So the goal is to have that one done by spring. All right, so you're pretty much caught up with all of the details on the new Jeep. You really pretty much know everything that I know about it. So now, just to get to work and get it back to where we can drive it on the trail. I cannot wait to get this thing out of the shop and put it through some paces. I've never wheeled anything like this before. I mean, it has leaf springs, it has a V8, it's got more wheelbase. These are all things that my TJ does not have. So I am super excited to just get out and play in it. So really motivated just to knock out these few things and get it on the trail. So once we get to Moab, the body is gonna kind of be like this so we can beat on it. I'm not gonna worry too much if we get into a bad situation and have to dent a fender to make it through a spot out there. So that'll be no big deal. But when we come home, we're gonna get the body off, we're gonna make it pretty, we're gonna powder coat the cage. I've got all kinds of plans for this old CJ. So subscribe to the channel, and until then, peace.